Welcome to the Find My Catalyst podcast. That is how we used to start this thing. The podcast is designed to help you find your catalyst, that nudge to help you do the things you want to do better and faster. Ultimately, to find your catalyst, to start solving some of the tough problems, breaking through some of the barriers that are getting in the way of your success. And this is episode 400. I'm recording it on Saturday, the 10th of August. We've been publishing podcast episodes now for almost 8 years. So just a little bit under 8 years. It's about 7 years, 9 months. And if you do the math, what you'll find is we've published on average weekly over that period of time. Now we've gone through some patches, ups and downs, where we've stopped publishing content, and we are on, I probably would say, the third iteration or fourth iteration of kind of restarting things. And we've got a new process in place. So you're seeing more content. You're actually seeing content 2 times per week. On Monday, I'll bring on a guest, and then on either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, one of those 3 days, depending on schedule, I will record an episode like this. And the theme that I want to focus on, and the theme that we focused on this week, is around enabling and empowering. Enabling and empowering. And it's really about enabling and empowering others. Enabling and empowering those around you. We enable and empower the people that are important to us. That might be family. We enable and empower those people that we work with in a business context, so where we do the work. Those could be customers, both internal customers, people inside our organization, and external customers, those who pay us money for providing either a product or a service that's out there. So we're going to focus on enablement and empowerment, or enabling and empowering. But before we do that, I just want to thank everybody for picking the podcast back up. We're seeing more downloads here recently, and that's what happens when you're consistent. The podcast episodes that have been the most downloaded episodes in the last 2 years, going back the last 2 years, have been kind of split between finance, sales, some operations stuff. I'll give you a couple of episodes. The RevOps Strategy, Tactics, and Design with Cliff Simon has been the most downloaded podcast that we've had in the last 2 years. Capital Alignment, Mistakes, and Learning with David Paul was the second most. From Scientist to Sales Pro, Unlocking Your Potential for Career Growth with Randy Sue Deckard, that was the third most. Sales Rebel and the Sales Rebellion, the fourth most. And Alignment, Sales, Marketing, Customer Experience with Daryl Prell was the fifth most. And those are the top 5 podcasts over the course of the last 2 years. Again, we're just getting started again. Thank you for continuing on this journey. Thank you for sharing the podcast with others. If you find value out of any episode, please share it with them and let me know via LinkedIn or Twitter, as then I know what content's resonating out in the marketplace. The other thing I'll ask you to do is, if you're a fan of the show, if you've gotten any value out of the show, please provide a rating or review either on Apple Podcast or Spotify or Google, wherever you're listening to the podcast. The ratings and reviews really help, and thank you for doing that. And if there's anything that I can do to help you directly, just let me know. My contact information is pretty accessible out there. I answer my direct messages both in Twitter and in LinkedIn. So if there's anything I can do to help you, either by helping you with some of the process stuff that I do well inside organizations or with others, or the people stuff, by connecting you with folks who can solve for some of the things that you're working on solving for, I am happy to do so. I enable and empower people to achieve the results they want to achieve through the combination of people and process. And that's skills that people have that interact and engage with them, and processes that can be used to help create predictable results. So let's get into this specific topic around enablement and empowering. So this is it's kind of a weird definition for enable, but I'm going to go right to where I tend to go to, which is the Google and Oxford Languages. The definition for enable is give someone or something the authority or means to do something, to make possible. In computing, it's make a device or system operational, to activate. So I think that's a pretty interesting definition around enable, Because back when I was growing up, when you were labeled as an enabler, or you act as an enabler, sometimes you're enabling bad behavior. Now, I think that you can enable good behavior. You can activate. You can give someone the authority or the power to do something. Now you move into the word empower. Empower, on the other hand, and I've got to go get back to this definition, excuse me, as we're doing this live. The verb empower, empowerer, to empower is give someone the ability or authority to, or power to do something. Make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. So, empower is one of those words that if you look at the trends over time, it's being used more often. So enable and empower, enable and empower. And when you think about enabling and empower humans, that's a good thing to do, because a lot of the people that we work with, whether inside our organizations or the people that are around us, may feel like they're not empowered to take action, empowered to do something. And one of the primary reasons why folks, at least from my perspective, do not feel like they are empowered to take action is because of a lack of clarity in the way that we communicate the things that are important to us. And when I think of things that are important to us, I go straight to goals or specific objectives. And one of the tools that I shared earlier this week on LinkedIn was a simple tool to help enable and empower people to gain a little bit of clarity around what they're doing, where they can do it, how they can do it. And it was a simple card. At the top of the card, it had a line, an open line, and I'll include a link and an image inside the show notes here. But at the top of the card, it was, let's first understand what our objective is. What's our objective? What are we trying to accomplish? And I don't care if that objective is a very big objective, broad, these big, hairy, audacious goals that a lot of people like to talk about, or if it was small, a simple objective, like get out of bed in the morning. Make sure that I leave my bed in a better place than it was when I got out of it. So make my bed in the morning. They could be very simple, but first, let's understand what our objective is. And the story that I shared was an objective around onboarding people. And let's say we want to onboard new team members or new customers into our organization and do so in a 90-day period. That's our objective. We want to do that in a 90-day period. So the next piece is timeline, and that's the time frame for which we want to accomplish whatever the thing is that we want to do. Another challenge that we run into when working on this, specifically in the context of enabling and empowering people, is lack of clarity around when something needs to be done by. And this is not micromanagement. This is setting expectations. I want to do X by Y. I want to do X by Y. I want to lose weight by a certain period of time. I want to generate a certain amount of revenue by a certain period of time. I want to grow my business by a certain period of time. I want to increase the size of my team by a certain period of time. I want to gather a piece of information by a certain period of time. I want to pick up a certain skill. So we've got an objective and we've got a timeline. Well, then the next piece that we want to know is, what are our processes that we can apply to do this? What are our processes that we can apply to do this? This is where a lot of people get hung up because they may not have an appreciation for process. And I tend to be a bit more process oriented than most. And it's not like I walk around and see the world through the matrix and see all of this code and then all of a sudden things kind of work together. Maybe there's part of it, but I can see the process and systems in just about everything. And for clarity of definition, for me, a system is a combination of both process and tools. A process is a series of steps that you take in a specific order to yield a specific result. Now, sometimes you might not get to that result because there's a break or there's a gap in the process, or there's a break or gap in the ability to complete the process. Tools, on the other hand, are something that help you gain leverage. So we use a pry bar to gain leverage and open up a door or open up a crate. We use a socket wrench to torque down a bolt or nut onto a bolt. We use a tool like a call plan to improve the effectiveness that we have in meetings with either internal team members or with our customers. And as a reminder, that call plan is knowing who's going to be in the room, anticipating what are their objectives on one side of the square, knowing what our objectives are on the other side of the square. And then at the bottom, understanding desired next steps. And again, these are things that I shared in Whiteboard Wednesday and Tactical Tuesday a little bit earlier this week. So if you'd like to see the videos, go to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is Catalyst Acts. You can find us on YouTube. I'll include a link in the show notes, and you can see these tools put into practice on the whiteboard. So let's get back to the tool that was shared earlier. So I know what our objective is, we know what our timeline is, and we know what our processes and tools are that we're going to use to apply to it. Well, one of my favorite systems is the game plan. And I'm a bit biased because it's one that I've developed. Now, in the spirit of I see as far as I see because I stand on the shoulders of giants and Marie Antoinette, there's nothing new except what has been forgotten. There are a number of systems and tools and processes that you can use to get better at goal setting and execution. The one that I've developed and that I deploy in organizations, both to generate revenue and to help people accomplish goals, is the game plan. And the feedback I've gotten on the game plan is it has really simplified the connection between strategy and tactics. If we understand what our goal is, what our objective is, we understand the actions, how we'll bucket the actions, our strategy, how, into 3 different areas. So we have a goal, we have a line strategy, 3 strategies to achieve the goal. And then we have tactics that nest underneath that strategy, specific pieces of work that we will do at a specific time, at a specific frequency to accomplish the goal. We will have a high level of clarity of the type of work that we're doing to help get us on pace. And that's feedback that I get in the game plan. And if you'd like to check out the game plan, you can go to findmycatalyst.com, and there's no shortage of resources, both free resources related to the game plan, including videos, and then paid for resources that start as low as, I think, $45 a month, $45 for the notebook is what we've got out there. If you join something like the Phoenix Club, I'll work directly to help you build out your game plan and accomplish something in the next 90 days that you didn't think was possible. It's important to have systems, so the combination of processes and tools to help enable and empower us to achieve the things we want to. If you feel disabled or not enabled inside your organization, then I think the question that you've got to ask is why? Why do you feel that way? Are you not given the right processes or tools, systems? Are you not given the right power or flexibility to go and do something? If you're not given the power to do something, that flexibility, well, then the next question I would ask is, do you understand the goals and objectives of the business or your family or yourself? If you don't understand the goals and objectives of your business, how can you expect to be enabled or empowered to achieve those things? So ask that question of your leadership first. And you as a leader, share that information with your team on an ongoing basis. I've got pipeline created and pipeline developed listed over my shoulder on the whiteboard. And the reason why those 2 numbers are important to me is because I think they're the key numbers that help to determine whether or not, or keep a score on whether or not revenue team is doing the work that they're supposed to do. 2 simple numbers. Yet we overcomplicate these numbers with a lot of other KPIs that are attached or added to it, or we hold people accountable to hitting metrics that don't necessarily matter. The point of this last piece is let's simplify. Let's identify 2, maybe 3 specific metrics that we're using to help determine, are we moving closer to the goal or are we not? Are we making progress or not? Because if we aren't making progress, then we have to evaluate, why are we not making progress? Is it because we're not doing the work? Is it because the work is not working for us? Or is it because there's something else that's happening inside the market or inside our operating environment that's getting in the way? I don't know, but I know what questions to ask and I know what data to look at to help figure that out. And you should too, as a leader inside your organization. And as a reminder, leadership starts with self. So you as an individual inside an organization, you are at a minimum a leader of self. And if you lead self well, then you've earned the right to lead another member of the team. And if you demonstrate an ability to lead another member of the team well, lead others well, then you've earned the right to test leading teams and then maybe leading teams of teams. Doing the work. And leadership starts with self. So that revenue challenge that you might have inside your organization or within your family or inside your business or however you look at it, may actually be a culture challenge in disguise. And remember, culture is how we do what we do. Culture starts with leadership, and leadership starts with self. So build better leadership capabilities, and you'll start to see these things come together. Again, in the context of systems and processes that you can, and tools that you can use to help inform how you're performing. I hope that this isn't getting a little lectury. I kind of feel like one, I'm not moving around on the screen, and not everybody's watching the video. If you want to watch the video of this, you can always see it on YouTube. But the point so far, number one, make sure you have a clear definition of around what enable and empower means. If that's what you want to do inside your organization, then have a tool that you can use to simplify the way that you enable and empower people to do things. And one of the tools I shared with you is that card. I mean, know what your objective is, understand what your timeline is, and then document your processes and tools that you'll use to achieve what you're looking to achieve. Processes and tools are systems. The system I shared there was the game plan, goal setting and execution through clarity and focus, gaining focus through lines of clarity, create alignment, and simplifying your approach to taking next logical steps so that you start gathering data. And the last piece I want to get into is the importance of design and how design applies in all of this. So if we want to design, if we want to enable and empower our customers, both internal and external customers, to be on board, to achieve the results that they want to. So we start first with onboarding. Well, let's talk about what onboarding looks like at the end of the 90-day period to determine, yep, they've actually been onboarded properly. They have all the tools, resources, knowledge, information, everything that they need in order to exhibit the right behaviors inside the organization. And when you're looking at behavior, COM-B is the model that I've adopted after my work that I did with CyberSafe in the security space. I think it's phenomenal. It's a simple way to look at behavior change, capability, knowledge and skill, opportunity, the operating environment, culture, leadership inside an organization, and then motivation. And if you want to go deep into that, you can go check out some of the other episodes where we've discussed. If you just do a search for COM-B, COM-B, and Catalyst, you'll find some whiteboard information. So what do I mean by designing backward? So at the end of the 90-day period, we have a clear set of objectives, things that someone should be able to do, things that someone should have been able to accomplish. We get those listed out on our board, our whiteboard. Then we start to work backward and say, okay, well, what is it? What needs to be true? What do we need to know in order to be able to say check on each of those, let's say 3 to 5 objectives? Well, the first thing we probably need to do in order to be able to say check is have an assessment in place. So let's get that assessment as the last step in the onboarding process, that we can assess ourselves and we can assess others. Ideally, there's some kind of 360 assessment that's happening there. Let's ask our customers to assess whether or not they agree that they've been onboarded. Let's ask both internal and external as we go through it. Let's do our own assessment and say, given what I'm seeing, do I agree that they've been onboarded? Well, okay, behind the assessment, then they've got to demonstrate an ability to do something throughout the process. So let's identify what are some of the tests that people are going to do to demonstrate that they've been able to do the work. Well, behind the doing the work, someone needs to show them what that work looks like. Maybe we model good behavior. Behind that, we tell them what good behavior is, what good looks like. This gets into the combination of both training and coaching. We train the skill first. We coach improvement related to the skill. Train the skill first, coach improvement related to the skill. So as we've worked backward, we know that there's a training component, there's a coaching component, there's a kind of demonstrate the ability to do the work component, and then there's a final assessment. So we know what those stages are. Well, now what we can do is layer in, and you'll see this in the video that I did on Whiteboard Wednesday, we can layer in something like a call plan to help enable people to move through different gates and demonstrate capability around that stuff. So if we design backward and execute forward, leverage our inner covey, we're going to put ourselves in a better position rather than just starting and saying, hey, let's just keep doing and hope that we get there. Let's know where we want to go, work the couple of steps backward, know where we're starting, and then as we're moving forward, let's assess whether or not we're making progress. We design backward, execute forward. If you're interested in some help here, this is one of the value pieces that come out of doing a whiteboard as a service engagement with me. We'll get a team of people together, a team of your team together, put all of the information up on the whiteboard, identify where some of our blind spots are in the system or the process, if it's a combination of multiple processes, and turn some of our known unknowns into knowns. And it's a pretty exciting thing when some of those known unknowns can become known and we can get past some of the assumptions. So design backward, execute forward. We can help you there on the whiteboard as a service. Build out your game plan. You have a system to help you achieve the thing that you're looking to. Systems are the combination of processes and tools. Have a simple tool that you can use to help gain clarity around what the objective is and how you're going to go after and attack that objective. And if you do that well, you will be in a position where you'll communicate better with your team and you will enable and empower them to be successful, to be the best that they can be, or at a minimum get to a point where they say, you know what, I did all this work and it isn't for me. I need to do something else. I don't get fired up about it. Because if your people aren't getting fired up about the work that they're doing, something's wrong. You might have the wrong people in the wrong place inside the organization. I firmly believe that people will get excited about work that is meaningful to them. The challenge for us as leaders is helping people find that work that's meaningful to them. And if you've been listening, leadership starts with self, so you are all leaders. And if you're struggling with finding meaningful work, you've got some work to do on your own. And if you'd like a group of people to help you there, take a look at the Phoenix Club. It might just be your group of leaders that exist out there who want to think different so that they can do different. This feels like a giant commercial inside the podcast. I hope it was not. I hope I gave you some tools and resources and some practical guidance that you can apply. If you know somebody who would find value in this conversation, please share it with them. Let me know via LinkedIn or Twitter. If you'd like help or you think you're kind of interested in me potentially being able to help you, send me a direct message. That direct message can either come through LinkedIn or Twitter, or if you happen to be in one of the Slack channels like Pavilion that I'm a part of, send the Slack there as well. That's another great way to get a hold of me. Thank you very much for helping us get to 400 episodes. A couple of quick shout outs here at the end. Number one, to Jody Mayberry for being that catalyst at the front end to help getting this thing launched. Number two, to Mike Connor for being a partner as we launched this originally and learned a lot about communication and sharing information and what gives us energy. I want to thank Cassie Tucker for the work that she did in the background on the podcast as a member of Jody's team. I want to thank her for also interviewing me a couple of times on the podcast. I want to thank Tanner Brock for interviewing me on the podcast. And I want to thank all of the guests who have given your time, your insight, and your expertise to the podcast. I'm going to hit that end one more time. If you know of anybody who would find value in this, please share it with them. Let me know via LinkedIn or Twitter. Sales is a thinking process. Business is a thinking process. Life is a thinking process. How are you thinking differently about your process? Thanks.